I wanted to maybe kick off the session by asking yourself, right? I know you are into your business, into training and coaching. So, as a women entrepreneur, all right, leading your own business, what what are the one or two things, if you reflect back in 2020, what are the one or two things that you realized?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, just to set the context again for people who may not know what we are
Yes.
into. So, we are a leadership consultancy firm. We focus on business storytelling as a way to drive change, create transformation, build skills. So, we work with leaders and teams to harness the power of stories in a business context, to really create that engagement, to connect, to inspire, to influence action. And like we say, it's our big, hairy, audacious goal of
Right.
being more human at work.
Okay.
So that's the context in terms of where we are. And I think,
It's a good topic right now because I think as the pandemic was actually, as a entrepreneur myself, I've also been thinking about what should I be doing? Is it something I need to reflect? And I make a decision which I've been postponing for a long time, is to get my DBA. So I signed up for a DBA, and online learning is now the way to go.
yeah,
So interestingly, when you said that you are into leadership transformation and all this, just 2 days ago, I attended my module. Is called transformational leadership. So it's interesting that we have this conversation. I'm
common.
looking forward to learn, from your uh, actual experience working with leaders. I mean, it's not easy to work with
Right.
leaders because they are all very strong characters. So yeah, would love to hear, first maybe one or two things that you've realized in the last 1 year, and then
Yeah.
how do you, with this pandemic, does it affect your business? Because I guess coaching, if I understood correctly, it used to be one to one, face to face. You got to
Right.
see and feel. So yeah, all
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Rina. And absolutely bang on. I think it's sort of become the word of the moment, communication. So
Yes.
if you had three C's, that would be just communication, communication, and communication now.
Yes.
I think we are all in that whole collective shock and vulnerability part, right, at the moment with what's been happening. So,
Mhm.
and that affects businesses all over, all kinds of businesses. And we are all also hardwired to make sense about everything that happens around us. We want
Yes.
that comfort and sense. And in that current situation, I think it is the onus and the responsibility of leaders to make sense. So it like sort of says, oh, these range of emotions that you're facing is legitimate. And using stories is one way of sense making. So, I just want to link it up to that. And that we've really realized, and we knew it, all of us, that communication is really
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important piece. Feeling listened to and understood by everybody around you really improves your work environment. And that has only become even more reinforced because the complexity of the messaging has gone up. Technology has made it sure that
Mm-hmm.
not only are we dealing with attention deficit, but we are also dealing with a lot of choice. Today, if you wanted to spend half an hour, you have 100 Netflix shows and Amazon Prime and Apple TV and webinars to attend and courses to do, right? There's like a lot of distraction, and you really need to cut through that. So, from a work point of view, and this is again an absolute realization for us, we were working on hybrid before. It's not that we weren't working on hybrid, but what has really helped us to is to reinvent what we were doing and looking at how we could deliver relevant content. For example, in the past, obviously, a lot of the workshops and programs were in person. And that gave a big drive. You had people walking into the room, into the training room, and you saw people, you like connected, you smiled, you shook hands, all of which is now, how do you see a smile when your face is covered this much? Your eyes need to smile. And there is a word which has come out for it. It's called smizing or something like that. you know so the vocabulary has changed, the dictionary is changing, and you can't shake hands anymore, so you still need to connect. And once COVID has happened, so we changed. It's not that you just take anything that you were doing in person and just shift it to online, right? You'd still need to think, how do you keep it relevant for the audience? How do you create that engagement? Look at it from a design thinking perspective. How do you create all the touch points to all the senses, getting some videos, getting in? So we like really worked around it, and we changed our program into a modular session. Just for example, our storytelling program used to be a 8-hour session on a day or 2-day program. We have made it into 2 hours, 4 modular sessions. And what we introduced is something we call the bridging activity, which helps people to look at a structure that they learned during the session and very casually using WhatsApp, record a video explaining it as relevant to their situation. Like how you were talking, say, about your DBA. So saying, in the past, this happened, and then this came in. So I'm doing this so that in the future, it'll be like this. So using a very simple structure to explain their situation. And
Mhm.
we coach them back on the WhatsApp. And this single thing, to be honest, and it's been an eye opener for us, has made such a big difference to what we call the NPS, which is the Net Promoter Score, on how the program is effective.
Hmm.
So we are actually serving the participants so much better now than we were in the in person. And I love meeting people. So, I always told myself that no, any other program is fine. Storytelling has to be in person. That's what I told myself. But we are seeing that leap and change of how people are also embracing the technology and the situation and doing those WhatsApp videos, happy to be coached and really embedding it in their learning. So I think on the virtual space, as you would know now when you're doing your DB as well, there are two aspects. One is the engagement when you're in the session,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is the application piece on how are
Yes.
you actually relating it to real life. It's not something just you just do it there and forget about it, right?
Uh, yeah, I think first to sort of, I do agree that this whole situation has actually forced us to relook on how we actually deliver content for sure, because I do own schools and
Right.
preschools and even like other schools that cater for executive education.
Yeah.
Um, as adult, I think we don't have an issue dealing with technology, but as kids, especially very young kids, that is one new level of headache.
Right.
I mean, this is probably the only time, hopefully the only time in that schools were affected so much. I mean,
Right.
not even the wars and the Spanish flu,
Yeah.
and I think while the adults are getting a lot stressed, parents are getting stressed, I think the children as well, especially the young ones, because
No,
they can't
absolutely.
comprehend what's happening around. And I feel so sad when the children, the preschool kids are asking, why can't I go to school, why can't I go to school, like they miss school. But coming back to your point, I think you know whether you're doing executive training, usually because the it is participants from the company, so the company says, okay, I send you guys 8 hours a day, so 2 days we do go for the workshop. But I've attended those workshop, is actually at the end of the day is very tiring. 8 hours of, and I do not know, after lunchtime or before lunchtime my brain just froze, and afternoon was just passing time. So I
No,
do believe that this is a good time where we relook at how we engage people in delivering content. I think moving forward, bite size, just in time, relevant content will
yes.
make the way forward, right? Short but sharp, because sometimes our capacity, our
Yeah,
storage,
yeah.
we can't take so
There's an
much.
overflow.
We can't process that much. And but I think, if, like you said, it is, perhaps the delivering it, and then making sure that you engage the participants in applying what you learn is the most important. I think we used to say, okay, after the workshop, I don't care, it's just a workshop. I think, I would love to see more,
Yeah.
what do you call that, people in education, whether they're coaches, teachers. Support is very important, to feel that someone is walking, alongside you, making sure that what you learn, you apply to your life, and you make an impact, right? So I think
Absolutely.
it's a good thing, actually, that you're
I
able
mean,
to do that. Yeah.
so we do, link up the whole thing to a
Hmm.
24-week deliberate practice program
Hmm.
where and email nudges, and then we do group
Yes.
coaching, three
Yes.
sessions at the end of 1 month, 2 months, to really understand what's happening, how are you able to apply and take it forward. And I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the important things, even more so on the online space and everywhere, is how memorable is your content as well. And I think that's what we also teach leaders and teams on
Hmm.
storytelling. On when you're communicating to your teams, are you being memorable? Are
Yeah, I
you
remember what you said.
are you, really leaving them with ideas which they can think and apply? And
Hmm.
let me just give an example about it. We talk about innovation a lot, and you are in that space totally. And
Hmm.
so I'm sure this is something that will relate absolutely to you.
Yes.
So we can, as a leader, you can say, teams, you need to be innovative, you need to look at, design differently, and you need to go
Yes.
local. All those words will just go over people's head, they will just glaze over. In March 2020, this happened in a hospital in Brescia in Italy.
Hmm.
The hospital was treating around 250 coronavirus patients in the ICU.
Hmm.
And that was much larger number than the ICU could actually handle, which is the
Right.
situation we saw everywhere, right? So the hospital was running out of respirator valves. And these valves are very important to keep the machines going, to keep the
Yes.
patients alive. But there was a sudden spike in the demand across the globe, so there was short supply.
Okay.
So after hearing this issue, an Italian journalist, she took it upon herself to connect the hospital with a local 3D printing company called
Yes.
Isinova. So the CEO, Christian, and the engineer, Alessandro, they went over to the hospital to understand what does a valve look like? What does the valve in a respirator look like? They had never manufactured medical equipment. But they said, our city needs it, our country needs it, the world needs it. So let's think about how we can really find a solution. So they went back to the facility, they created a prototype in just under 3 hours. And after checking that it matched to the original wall,
Hmm.
they got around mass producing it across their 6 industrial printers, and they churned out 100 walls in just 24 hours. And the cost was like less than €1. So then they took the prototype. They really said, it's great we are able to do it for our
Hmm.
city.
Hmm.
How do you make technology accessible to everybody? So they created that prototype and they refined it and they distributed the design to 3D printers everywhere. So you had an absolute non medical team which created a vital device
Yep.
in 24 hours. They created it. And that's innovation. So now, Rina, if you have to talk about this as innovation to your team, to people,
Hmm.
will you be able to retell it?
Yeah, I think so. I think innovation is really, looking inside, what is missing, and then of course realizing that, I would want to believe that every human being has some sort of superpower inside us. The superpower is the mind. Whether you want to do it or not, right? So
Right.
I'm the type that, believe that if you want to find answer, especially in today's world, okay,
Right.
you will find it. Not today, but tomorrow or next day. As long as you don't give up finding the solution. But most people are so they love to be spoon fed. When they
Right.
have a problem, they love to just complain. So I used to tell my team, if you find a problem and if you come to me with a problem, you will forever be an employee, because a leader will take it upon herself or himself to find a solution.
Solution.
Yeah. So in this case, right, I think I would salute the journalist who saw that there is a problem. The innovation part, I mean, the hospitals are probably overwhelmed and nobody in the hospital is thinking outside the box. They're just saying, okay, we are overwhelmed, we don't have money to buy, so what? But maybe they are not in that state of mind.
Mind space.
Yes. So sometimes it's good to have someone from outside looking inside, right? And say, hey, actually, we can do something. And it may not totally be, in that whole hospital supply chain. Like you said, it's totally outside the box. And then finding a partner to collaborate with you. I think this is really a partnership collaboration. Someone.
I love the way how you have framed it, Rina. I love you took it on, obviously. And I think this is also the role, at the risk of, plugging, this is also the role of what external consultants do. You bring an eye from outside in, you're able to zoom out, look at what is the big picture, what is happening, and then zoom in to apply it into organizations and bring in best practices.
Yeah.
And
because sometimes,
consultant. So,
most of the time, I think CEOs or management running the business day to day, they are bogged down by a lot of nitty gritty, and you really maybe don't have time to pull yourself out to see the bigger picture. I think all CEOs need, at least for me, need someone that is outside of your company that you can spar idea with.
Right.
That would be like, professionally, we call them coaches. Basically just to, listen to openly, non-judgmental, to give you, maybe a reality check.
Yeah.
Things don't happen in, I guess CEOs that they've got, senior management, they do have their own pressure as well, because perhaps they need to report to the board. And then, let's say for me, if I'm a manager, all I used to do is like, why my boss is like this? I guess my boss is like this because his boss has some expectations, so he has to cascade it down. And I think, like you said, you could do it in a very transactional way. This is an instruction, so do it.
Do it.
Or perhaps you are a different type of leader. You are more, open to gather information, get the buy-in, and then, like I said, trained by someone. I don't think you're born with it. You probably train and get knowledge that you can actually articulate your vision in a storytelling way. I remember when I was actually considering why to invest in that preschool. The founder of the preschool has an art background, art and theater.
Yeah.
Okay. And he told me, you know what? I created this preschool because I think it's important for the student and teacher to interact and engage. Okay. And I said, why? He says, look at theater, look at movies, Hong Kong movies, for example. I remember growing up watching movies and I'm in the movie just because the actors were so good. And I know it's fake, but I still cry, I still laugh. So he says, imagine if the children or the teachers can actually engage the children, make a connection. So I think, what you're doing is very interesting. If you could help the leaders engage by the storytelling, because storytelling, I think it evokes some kind of internal emotion. You if someone tells you a story, unlikely you are gonna forget it. But if you, like you said, those words, innovation, why are you not doing? These are words. Words will be words. It's not a story. So I think what you're doing is very, very interesting, because I just realized as we were talking, right?
No,
I
and
never forget Cinderella because somebody told me a story about
yeah,
it.
and I think the only difference that we make,
Mm,
especially in business, because when you say the word story in a
mm,
business context,
mm,
people tend to think Cinderella, make believe,
mm,
something which is fictional.
mm-hmm,
But in a business context, you want to keep the stories very real. It has to be things that have actually happened. So
mm,
we call these actually the small s stories, which is anecdotes, examples, like how you were recalling about, this is what the kindergarten
mm.
person said when I was doing.
Yes,
So it's all
yes.
real life examples.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not looking at, the big Hollywood kind of thing, but we're looking at real life examples and things that will connect and resonate, be memorable, and something that you can take action on.
Yeah.
And I loved what you said about, the taking ownership for action. And we say this, right? Like, I'm remembering when COVID happened and a lot of the school graduations got cancelled.
Yes.
There was this Japanese kindergarten school which conducted a Minecraft graduation for itself. The students
Oh,
self-organized and did that for themselves. So really, it is about taking ownership. Leaders can show the way, do the
yes.
role modeling. And I
Yes.
think the CEOs are amazing at that. They've really, this is the time where they've come on and done that. But it's about taking ownership. And I'm remembering there's this series called Dirty Jobs. It used to be
Mm,
hosted by
mm.
this person called Micro. So he talks about a time when, he was preparing in his hotel room. He was going to do one of the roles that he was going to do was jump from a parachute. And he was not looking forward to it. He was really scared. And while he was doing it in his hotel room, he saw this guy who was like, standing in the hallway. His feet were in the ladder, and the rest of him was somewhere in the ceiling. So Mike goes to him and introduces himself, and he finds out that that guy's name is Corey. So he asks Corey, "What are you doing? What are you up to?" And he didn't want to go for the jump, so he was trying to delay it. So Corey says, "Hi, Mike. Lovely to see you. You're doing a great job with your show and all that. My pipe has a crack on it, and so my hot water is leaking into my laundry room. So I've got to turn off my pipe, replace my old pipe, get my new one installed so that my customers don't have a problem." And Mike was so taken aback. He said, he asked, "Do you want a hand or whatever and all that?" And he asked him for a photo. So Corey said, "Why do you want a photo with me? What am I?" And he said, Mike really said, "I like the way you talk about your job. It is not the hot water. It is not the old pipe. It is not the laundry room. It is my hot water. My pipe is rusting. My laundry room needs this." So
Mm.
it's really about owning it. So it's not just any job, it is my job. So when you're thinking about, he said that Corey's words really made it easier for him that day when he was jumping out of the aeroplane. He said, "I'm thinking about my ripcord and my parachute. It's not somebody else's."
Yeah.
So really taking pride in everything that you do, taking ownership for your action. And that is what really, I think, the current times are all about.
Yeah.
Organizations can organize a lot of learning dashboards. They can help you learn in the flow of work. But I think it is as learners ourselves, how we are taking responsibility, how we are going ahead. And
Yeah.
there's a natural human tendency, right? When there is fear, we clamp down.
Yes.
But the biggest failure comes only when we don't make a change.
Yeah, I think the shift in the mindset, like I said, nobody can help you if you don't want to help yourself. You cannot progress, if you don't want to, because then don't complain that somebody is doing better than yourself, because you're just sitting on the couch and just complaining. So do something. And I think I like the part. I mean, I've spoken to many coaches and all this. But I really like the part that, perhaps getting someone, a leader, to tell a authentic story, is important for that the leader. Two things, because if you're able to tell a story authentically, people are not stupid. They can feel like, hey, this guy is just, maybe copying stories from somewhere. Then, oh, actually, you know what? The story is so real, so touching. There's so much to learn about this. And then, of course, one thing I realized about corporate leaders, um, if you are a senior person in one big MNCs, I think I had a conversation with someone, another speaker the other day, is like, how do you, you are representing an organization, for example, a big bank. So you have to act, look, and everything is aligned to the bank's branding. And then one day, if you are not in the bank anymore, what do people see you? Like, you were X, whatever, right? But I don't really know this person because 30 years ago, he was in this bank. After he got out of this bank, I don't really know this person as a what. So I think if I could send a message out to, friends or members of Asia CEO that is, already going, to the peak of their career, it's time to actually think about your own story. Many of them actually forgot about themselves because they were so into their job, their career, and their alignment towards the company. We don't really know that person is what he stands for, because obviously he has to represent the organization that he works for. But I think, if any listeners were to think about it, right? And if you don't really know how to tell your own story, I think you can definitely give Soundari a call, so that she can help us, create our own stories. Because I do have that kind of resistance. My friend was like, "Hey, Rina, you should publish a book." Many years ago, I was like, actually, I don't have much stories. I don't think I'm good enough to tell my own stories. Asian tend to be very too humble. And no, I'm not good.
You hit the nail on the head on that. And a lot of the times, and this is something that we see when we tell people, all of us are natural storytellers. That's what we do. Today in the conversation, you shared so many of your experiences, right? And it's just come naturally. And I think we don't realize that our stories are powerful. Until we get comfortable doing that, it is okay to share stories of others as long as it's real, to make your point. It doesn't always have to be only about ourselves, right? And, I remember John Flint, who used to be the CEO at HSBC before. He said that he talked about the fact that in his whole entire career with HSBC, he must have produced 10,000 PowerPoint slides. Nobody remembers a single PowerPoint slide that he has produced. But what people have come back to him and talked to him about is the stories that he has shared, his experience and his journey that he has shared. And that's the legacy that you leave for yourself. So connecting to what you were saying about, the CEO community that we work with, we all have an authentic story. We just have to get comfortable talking about it, and people only benefit and learn from it. I think there is generosity in sharing.
I think so. Oh, well, it has been a great conversation. I wish we have more time to catch up, but I have one, perhaps a little task, right? Gary started this Asia CEO long time ago, right? But he has been, kind enough to tell stories about other CEOs, like myself, yourself, and all this, right? Maybe if I could ask a favor, is that Gary, you should work with Soundari and
happy to do that.
Let her, bring out the story in you. Why did you start with this? Because I think you have been busy, just putting people, putting the other CEOs. So anyway, thank you very much, Soundari. We have to move on to another call, but it's been great catching up with you. Stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you guys in Hong Kong very soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gary and
Thank
Rina.
you. Thank you,
The great
Soundari.
opportunity. Thank you so much. And lovely conversation.
Yeah, thank
Stay
you so much.
safe and stay well.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.